Hello and welcome to episode 399 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Now I'm really excited by today's interview because it's a returning guest to Mark and Me, but I think it's been nearly 3 years since this guest last came on, and trust me, this is one of my favourite people in the music industry. Today I'm joined again by Dennis Lyxzén, yes, the genius frontman from one of the best bands on the planet, Refused. On today's interview, this time round we get to talk about the actual end of Refused. Next year, it's now common knowledge, the band are finally calling it a day, and it isn't like the last time. They are now saying this is it. Refused will be fucking dead. I'm gutted, but I'm going to make sure I get to see them. But to have Dennis on here, who's one of the most incredible, fascinating guests I've ever had on Mark and Me, and to now sit here and say the second time he's back is just a dream come true. And that interview will be coming up in just a couple of minutes' time. But as always, you know the score by now. I like to use the intro for every episode of Mark and Me, just to quickly touch base and talk about my last episode. And this one was absolutely massive. I was joined by Utah Saints. Again, legends within the music scene. Thank you so much to both of them for taking the time to share the episodes. The numbers were absolutely incredible. And because of the scene and the music they do, I saw a hell of a lot of new people jump on board of Mark and Me. Loads of new followers, loads of new people listening, and I'm so grateful. So welcome back to Mark and Me now if you've now chose to listen to another episode following on from Utah Saints. And thanks again to the loyal, long-time listeners. If you're still listening to this podcast after a few years, I really, really love you all. And before we get to the interview today with me and Refused, we have a great podcast sponsor to shout out to. Yes, Vice Press. If you're listening to this and you're a fan of films and pop culture, Vice Press are genuinely, hand on heart, the best company out there. They have great limited edition posters, art prints, collectibles, and the good thing is, if you buy from Vice Press, you know they're all officially licensed. They're made for fans of film, and truly, if you go on the site, you'll see some absolutely amazing pieces of work from some of the best artists out there. You will adore some of their stuff, like their brand new Vice Press home videos, which are genuinely VHSs, and they actually play, and they've got some great classic films on there. And the good thing is, because I'm in partnership with Vice Press, they offer anyone that's listening to the podcast today an instant 10% off your first order. All you have to do is to go on vicepress.com and literally enter the code MarkandMe10. That's all you have to do, the number 10 at the end of Mark and Me, and you get 10% off your first order. But if you're lazy or you forget this by the end of the interview, don't worry. On the show notes, if you're listening on Amazon Music or Apple Podcasts or Spotify, there's a link. You can click that and it will take you to the site and automatically reduce anything you want by 10%, which is just a great deal. But today, like I said, one of my favourite bands out there. I still pinch myself I ever got to interview Refused, but to have them back on, when I can safely say that The Shape of Punk to Come is in my top 5 albums of all time, is just surreal. But here I am, a second time with Dennis, and here is the interview all about Refused.
Can I scream? Yeah! We're that corrosion! But I'm gonna do big!
So Dennis, welcome back to the Mark and Me podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Dennis, it's been about 4 years, nearly 3.5, 4 years since you last came on, and a lot has happened. And for the listeners out there that may have missed the first time round, all guests that come on the podcast, it doesn't matter if you're an actor, a director, a film star, a musician, we always go back to the start. And I always want to know the first album that was given to you or you bought with your pocket money that made you fucking love music.
I mean, I'm sure we talked about this last time, but it was the Beatles.
Yeah.
I stole my Beatles albums from my dad, specifically like all the early stuff. She Loves You, I Want to Hold Your Hand, that kind of like really simple. And I was 8 years old. And then the first record I bought with my own cash was David Bowie's Let's Dance. And
So good.
I mean, it started my lifelong obsession and love with David Bowie.
It's some of the best. So obviously, I'm nearly at 400 episodes now, and those foundations are probably the best I've ever heard. Like, it doesn't get much better than that, does it? For songwriting, for
I know.
singing, for music. Like, where do you go after that? Like, it's only going to be downhill.
Yeah, I spoiled it all with first metal and then punk and hardcore. So
Unbelievable, my friend. But what about live music? So I'm showing my age. I'm 42. So the first gig I went to was Green Day on their Dookie tour. My parents dropped me off. I was in Wolverhampton. Like, meet me back here. Make sure you're here at 11 o'clock. Don't talk to strangers. And I had the best time of my life. And I thought, genuinely, they must be like performing to a backing track because there was only three people. And it blew
yeah,
my mind. I couldn't believe there was only three of them on that. At that stage, Green Day were just three people.
yeah.
But I wondered if you were lucky that, I mean, your foundations for your record collection are unbelievable. But what about live music?
It was I was not so lucky with live music. I mean, if you look at a map where I live, where I grew up, quite isolated, and
Yeah,
it was like the big town. I didn't even grow up in the big town. I grew up in like the small community, like half an hour outside the big town. And the big town is 100,000 people, 8 hours north of Stockholm. So there wasn't a whole lot of live music, but funnily enough, the first show or the first band that I saw live that kind of made an impression on me was I saw the band Meshuggah. You
wow.
know, yeah, and this is like 1980. I would guess it's 1988 or maybe even 87. I was like 15 or 16. They played like in my hometown. 8,000 people live there. Then and we have like one of those community houses and
Yeah.
a dance for the kids. And for some reason, Meshuggah was like the band that played. And I remember it vividly. And there was maybe 8 people in the room watching Meshuggah play. And I was pretty blown away because I just gotten into metal. And they at that point in their career, it sounded kind of like Anthrax, that kind of like
Yeah.
moshy thrash metal of the late 80s. So as a Meshuggah is like the first real band. I mean, at that point, they were just a local band. They were like a Umeå band, and they were locals. And little did I know that they would become a whole thing of their own. But yeah, I
Well,
saw them
yeah,
super early.
literally, this year they headlined Arctangent in the
Yeah,
UK,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they feel like they're at their peak now. And maybe I'm ignorant, but I never realized they had a legacy that long. I didn't know that. I thought I couldn't believe they'd
Yeah.
been going that long.
I mean, they've been going on. I have a cassette of them playing at a youth center from 1988, where it's just like thrash metal. They had a really classic song called "Die by the Blade," which we all like. You heard it when I was young, and then I was going through my tape collection like a couple months ago, and I'm like, holy shit, I have a Meshuggah live tape from 1988, and I actually ripped it to MP3. But yeah, they've been going on for a long time, and I mean, their first EP must have been 1989 maybe or
Wow.
1990. They put out their first EP on a local record label that mostly just put out garage punk, but then they put out the first Meshuggah 12-inch that's now quite pricey. And yeah, they've been around for a long time, but it wasn't until after that they had some lineup changes, and
Yeah.
then they went into full like progressive mode, and now they're like an entity on their own. It's like Meshuggah music.
So when you're seeing these bands and you're at such a young age and you've got these incredible records, you've seen some great shows, at what point is it part of your blood and your kind of DNA that you're like, I want to do this, like I want to do this as a job, or was it later in life?
That was way later. I mean, I early on, because it was like a different time. If you were into music, you started a band. I
Yeah.
mean, nowadays a lot of people are into music, and they can record music at home and just do their own stuff. But at that point, I was like, we started bands. I mean, I think my first band started probably in 1987. So I mean, when I saw Meshuggah, I already had my own little punk band, but I don't think we ever played live.
No.
So I started a band, and we started playing shows. I think my first show was December of 1988. I played my first show, which I also still have on tape, which is pretty wild.
Please tell me you've put that on MP3 now.
No, I haven't had the guts to listen to it yet, but I will.
I want to
So
hear that.
Yeah, we play an Anthrax cover and then two are compositions, and it's cool. I mean, I played bass and sang. We were also a three-piece at the time, and then I just sort of like fell into the idea of just playing in a band because um, I liked what it gave me.
Yeah.
I wasn't really into like drinking and doing stuff like that, so we just practice. Like we were teenagers, so obviously we were drinking, but it wasn't like that wasn't part of the agenda. And then I discovered punk and hardcore, and that really changed my trajectory. But for a long time, um, being like a punk, it wasn't being a musician full time wasn't. I wasn't even thinking that would be a possibility because the people that were musicians, they were like it's a different echelon of like
They're like
perform.
gods,
Yeah, they
unreachable.
were.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were punks. We're playing at youth centers and we're touring in a broken van and but I kept doing it. And then one day I woke up and I must have been, and also I felt there was some really like iffy connotations to the word musician because it felt like I always had the idea that it's like someone was like the bass up here and like a really proficient performer. And I was never that. But then I woke up and I was like my mid 30s and I just woke up one day and I remember the realization. I'm like, oh yeah, I just became a musician. That's wild. But it wasn't a part of the plan at all. It's just something that kind of happened just because I really loved playing music. And then one day I was like, I guess this is what I do for a living now.
Did you get the backing of your family? Because obviously where you were living, the culture around you, it wasn't like people were going to be like, Mom, Dad, I'm going to be a punk. I'm going to go in a band. I'm going to make music. Were they like, look, go and get an education, go to university, do the proper thing. That's a
Yeah,
dream, son. That's not reality.
they sure tried. Yeah, I mean, honestly, my parents, uh, I was kind of a wild child.
Yeah.
Uh, who would have guessed, And they were always kind of semi-supportive, but in the early days, my dad was like, you should get a real job. You should actually do something, and then you can play music on the side. And then when the first time Refuse got nominated for Grammy, my parents like, wait, oh, this is a real thing. And Grammys at that point were like, they showed him on Swedish television, and all my relatives were like, oh, wait, he's actually playing in a real band. That's insane. So I
This is
think,
real.
yeah, it kind of switched. And then from that day on, like my parents have been insanely supportive. Like my dad, like we played, I mean, we haven't played in Umeå for a long time. We refused. We were supposed to play 2020, but we all know what happened.
Yep.
And the last time we played a show in Umeå, my dad showed up and he had just a t-shirt that says, I'm Dennis and Refuse dad. I'm just like,
That's
no, this is
so fucking cool.
it's so cool that I'm at the same time, I'm like, Dad, why?
Yeah.
He's like, he loves him and mom loves to travel, and
Yeah.
he always wears like refused shirts and refused hoodies, and because he wants people to come up and talk to him about refused, and then he can
Then he
brag.
can drop the brag, yeah. But if you like Refused, my son is the singer.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
But they've been super cool because I mean I have two other brothers and they both still play music and play in bands, and they both work with music, both my brothers. So it's kind of cool. We're three brothers and we all work with music in different ways, which is kind of cool.
That's amazing. I love that they took you seriously once you got a Grammy nomination. That is pretty spectacular.
Not a whole lot of like punk and hardcore bands from the mid 90s can say that they got a Grammy nomination. Sweden is a very small country.
I love that story. And
I'm just saying it.
I know it's hard because we're so many years now, decades after the release, but when Shape of Punk to Come came out, you surely never would have anticipated the explosion it had on the scene because it's an absolute timeless fucking my top five album of all time. Like it's an absolute stone cold classic. Like it never ages. It stands the test of time. And it's the album that people still reference now. All my friends that are in bands take that to the studio and like, we want that guitar tone, we want this drum sound, we want the vocal like this. It's a staple in the industry, isn't it?
It is. It's weird. No, when we did it, we were like, I mean, it was one of those like trying to break away a little bit from what we felt were the constraints of hardcore.
Yeah.
Um, in a lot of ways, punk and hardcore really liberated me to do kind of whatever I wanted to do. But at the same time, like that scene in that world had a lot of rules and ideas. And then I think we went to the States in 96 with Snapcase, and we were like super political punks, and we came to the States, and it really clashed with what was happening in that scene. And we came home and we're like, oh, fuck this. We just need to do something very different. Um, it is funny because when we were doing Shape, I told David, like, I'm like, I don't think the hardcore scene is gonna like this record that much. And David said, well, I'm not worried. Like, it's a great record. If they don't get it, they're not gonna get it. And I think at that point we were both right, because the record got good reviews and people were quite excited about it. But then when we start playing, like the hardcore kids that, like, 2 years prior were doing like songs to fan the flames, they did not get it at that point. And people, I mean, to be fair, a lot of it had to do with us, that we were like super pretentious, and we came up with this air of like, yeah, look what we've done. And a lot of hardcore kids were like, yeah, fuck these pretentious dudes. So it took the world a little bit to, because I mean, when we broke up in 1998, we broke up in failure. Like, we were touring the States. It was a disaster. I mean, we played at the coffee shops, we played in record stores, we played in basements, and trying to perform these songs under these conditions, it was just hard, and no one really cared. And we broke up and we went home, and we were like, yeah, that was kind of a, failed experiment, basically. And then, 8 months later, it takes off. And then 26 years later, people can't stop talking about that record.
It must be surreal, because I have a lot of friends that like rock music, some punk, they don't like hardcore. And then as soon as The Bear came out, they were like, oh, I love this new band called Refused. And I'm like, fuck you. Like, 20 years I've been listening to this band. Like, you've just jumped on because of The Bear. But it must be insane that you've now gathered this whole new audience that have come along.
Well, there's been two things. The Bear and all the, like, we were in Triangle of Sadness, of course,
Yeah.
the Ruben Östlund's movie, and we've been in some other stuff like that, which has really made a lot of people like hear us, and especially like up here, all my friends, like, friends that I haven't seen in a long time, like, I heard your music on TV, and I'm like, yeah, it happens. And then the other thing that's been happening is that that music we made for the Cyberpunk game,
Oh shit, yeah.
that's insane, because that's like all of those songs have more plays than any Refused song apart from New Noise. So if you look at our, like, I have this sick masochistic tendency that I go in and look at YouTube comments on our videos.
Why would you do that? That is insane.
I don't know.
Never
It's
read
like,
the
I
trolls'
find
comments.
yeah, it's fascinating. But I would say now a good 70% of all the comments are people that say, I found you through Cyberpunk. I found you through Samurai. You're not my new favorite band. And that's insane. That's like one of the things I'm like, because when they hit us up, I'm like, oh, do you want to do this music for a video game? We're like, yeah, cool. We didn't know. And then, I mean, a couple of those songs has like 40 million streams, which
Fucking
is
hell.
pretty insane. So there's like a whole new world of people discovering us through TV shows and video games, and now going back and like, oh, this Shape of Punk to Come record, it's pretty good. And we're like, yeah.
They've got more than one good song. Yeah, there's quite a few.
Exactly, yeah. So it's been a weird couple of years, because it's been like we haven't played since the pandemic, and the band's been growing just because of these things. It's pretty wild.
Do you... Obviously, it's hard to avoid the elephant in the room. The big announcement that came out of nowhere, where it was like, Refused are now finally fucking dead. We are going to call it a day. I wondered, without getting too deep, I shit myself when I was on your Instagram and saw you had a heart attack. And I was like, oh my God, because I talked to you on Facebook Messenger. I've spoken to you for years now, and I kind of count you as a friend, and you always reply. You're such a nice person. Out of the, people don't know this, but sometimes people say don't meet your heroes, but you're just a lovely human being. And I wondered, did that kind of make you reevaluate everything in life?
Not really. It was
No,
weird. I mean, it was not recommended to have a heart attack. It
no,
was,
it's not the best thing.
it was not the best thing. Um, and the idea to like break up the band came way before my heart attack. Um, I think the funny thing, because we were supposed to do the festival in Stockholm and then maybe 15 shows. That was it. We were like, let's do a couple of shows over the fall, call it quits, and like let's go out with a bang. And then since I had my heart attack, I mean, I think maybe David reevaluated our friendship and like
Yeah.
what was refused, what's the meaning of this band and so on and so forth. So instead of doing the 15 shows we were supposed to do, we moved everything to next year. And now we're going to do like 50 shows before we break up and actually like really make it into full year of just having fun together and excitement and being like, who knows when we get to do this again and just enjoy it. But yeah, it is funny that on the morning of my heart attack, well, I had my heart attack, and then that afternoon we were supposed to go out with a press release saying "Refuse the fucking dead," which is pretty insane.
It's a good marketing tool if you staged it all just for part of the pictures and the ancest of like the legit people would be like, "Oh my God, refuse the
Yeah,
dead," and you're in a hospital bed, like
yeah,
fingers up, like
yeah.
I'm still
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It wasn't. I wish that was the case, but that show we're supposed to play the next day was like one of those like
Yeah,
paycheck shows, and we're like, this is gonna hold me over for like a couple of years, and then I'm like, oh no, that's not happening. And even like when I was rushed into the emergency room, Magnus, our bass player, was with me, and he looked at me, he said, I don't think we're playing a show tomorrow. And I'm just like, just give me some painkillers. I'm playing tomorrow. And then the doctor was like, no, you have a heart attack. Like, I'm like, what? And then, after the surgery, they rolled me away and they said, this went really well. You have to stay at the hospital for 3 days. And I'm like, I have a show tomorrow. And they're like, no, you don't. I'm like, oh, fuck. I really tried, but yeah, it was not to be recommended, but I feel really good now, and I'm super excited about next year. It's going to be tons of fun. That I think that's the whole idea. Just make it tons of fun.
do you have this slight kind of nervousness about it because it's been so long since you've played? Are you like, fuck, like we're going to be a bit rusty. We need to, blow the smoke off and do this all again. Those cobwebs have been around, and we've got to do what we do best.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to practice a lot, and I mean, we did play a show like 8 hours before I had a heart attack.
Yeah,
We played like a secret show, and it was really fun, and we sounded really great, and the energy was perfect. And then, but here we are. I think that next year is going to be super exciting. And I think me having this heart attack kind of, I mean, it didn't make me reevaluate life. I think one of the things with being a musician and an artist is that you constantly look inwards and you
yeah,
constantly think about your own mortality and you constantly think about like all these existential issues. I think if you have a more of a normal, quote unquote, normal life, something like that, this might hit you really hard. But for me, it was like, it went really well. I'm still slightly, I'm still slightly on edge because of what happened.
yeah.
But it
That's
was also one of those,
understandable, isn't it? It's going to
yeah,
be
it is very
because,
understandable. But it's also one of those things like it happened. Like I've dealt with my mortality. I thought about it a lot. I sang about it a lot, and now it just, I don't know. Little things shift, it was my birthday like 6 days after a heart attack, and it was like the first time in a long time. I was like, yes, I'm a year older. It's pretty awesome to celebrate the fact that I'm still here. And then the other thing is that me, I'm the guy that has like 5 active bands at all
yeah,
times,
it's insane. I
trying to
don't know
keep
how you keep
YouTube
up.
channels and the thing that happened now is like I'm gonna try to be a bit more smart, not do all the stuff all the
Yeah,
time. So I think those are the little changes. And then, as I said, with Refuse, it's just one of those like, let's really give people what they want. Let's make next year fun, exciting. We'll play anything people want to hear. We're not going to be, like we're not going to be difficult about it. We're just like, okay, you want to hear shit from start to finish? Yeah, we can do that. So it's like it's going to be one of those years where it's just like a celebration of our career together.
Will you make sure it's not just America? Because that does suck right now
Oh no,
when
no,
we're
no. It's America's the only thing that's set, but I mean we
yeah.
are doing the tentative, very tentative plan, of course, is that we're doing festivals over the summer,
Yeah.
doing European tour. We're finishing off in Sweden, and then we're trying to hit, if possible, like maybe Brazil or maybe Australia and stuff
Oh
like that. So, I
wow.
mean, no, it's gonna be like it's gonna be a full year. We just needed to go out with the announcement from this for the States, and
Of course.
now everything else is being pieced together, and it's gonna be super exciting.
So I can say to my friends, we're going to go and see Refused in the UK next year.
Yes, you can. That is a promise.
If not, I'm going to have to come to Sweden.
No, we'll hit the UK for sure.
Yeah. Do you worry that when it's over, it's going to be too hard to say goodbye? And then it's like, right, we've done this year. We've had an amazing time. We've been getting on better than we've ever got on. We're putting on the shows of our lifetime. Maybe you'll be then, oh, I don't want to say no now. I don't want to put the microphone down. Like, this is too good.
Yeah, I mean that I think that's a risk that you run into. Um, I mean, already, as I said, like the vibes when we played and the vibes when we practiced have been really nice. So
Yeah.
that is the risk, but I also think that there's something to be said about like leaving a legacy behind. And just because Refuse breaks up doesn't mean we have to stop playing music together, or we have, like we can still be creative and we can still do stuff. So I think it's just a matter of like trying to figure out what you want to do in the future. And I mean, David, our drummer, does not want to do Refused at all. And I mean,
Right.
it's like, I want to do this. I mean, I'll do this year. I'm super excited about it, but I don't want to keep doing Refused music, basically. Um, but he wants to play music with me, and we still want to play music together. So whatever that means for the future, I don't know. But I think it's gonna be it's gonna be a good ending to the whole thing.
It's kind of nice as well, isn't it? Like, I know you've gone on hiatus and you've been back and stuff, but to go out on the best year of your lives, having the best times, and leave people wanting more, instead of
Yeah.
kind of doing a cash grab tour every 10 years where people are just like, you can see, can't you, when you're in the crowd, it's really transparent. Like, these guys, their heart's not in it. They do not want
Yeah.
to do this. It's a paycheck
Yeah.
show every night. And then that kind of, for me, tarnishes their legacy. I'm like, oh, I'd rather just not go.
Yeah. I think so too. I think that just do it properly, and a celebration of everything. Um, and I mean, we've always been weirdos. We never done it the way other bands do it. I mean, in my mind, like there was a little bit of a window of opportunity where we could have become a band that like you release a record every 3 years and then you tour, and it becomes like a proper band, but we've never been that. We've been
No.
anything about that. So I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a fantastic ending for the band. I mean, last time we broke up in 1998, it's still a trauma for all of us. It's still something that when we revisit it, we're like, oh no, that was horrible. So to be able to sort of, plan the breakup in a way that's going to be creative and fun and exciting, and just,
And
have a good
amicable,
time.
isn't it? It's like you're putting a bow around it. It feels like a nice closure, not just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
this is shit.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of shit. And I think that that's going to be great. And as I said, I think we're not going to be like a lot of times when you are a legacy type of band and you have a record like Shape, and we want to put out new music and we want to create because we're artists, we want to do new stuff. And then sometimes it always becomes this push and pull with the crowd because they're like, yeah, the new stuff's great, but I want to hear this stuff. And it's always like, we're arguing in the dressing room, like, oh, we should play more old songs, and someone's screaming, no, well, let's just play new songs, like, and now it's just like, let's just play everything,
Everything. Yeah.
everything. Just we play some new songs, play some old songs. We're gonna play a lot of super old songs. We're gonna play a lot of hardcore songs. That's
That's
the
amazing.
pre, even before our first full-length album. We're playing songs from our first demo. I mean, that we're just gonna play.
This is amazing.
Yeah,
It's next year though. I'm getting too excited, and it's still ages away.
I know, but it's good for me. I need to get back into shape.
Literally, yeah, it's gonna be tough. I mean, what do you do to prepare for something like that? Because that's going to be a mammoth year. Like all your
Yeah.
friendships, your families, everything kind of needs to get put on hold, doesn't it? To concentrate
Yeah.
on this is the year of Refused.
Yeah. And I mean, what you do prepare is like usually, I mean, now it's going to be a full year, but usually like 2, 3 months before we start playing shows with Refused, I just go to a practice space and I just scream. I just because my voice is a muscle, and I'm gonna start doing that now. And then you need to get your cardio in shape. You need to get you need to get limber, and we still have like 5.5 months before the first show. So it's just like I treat like a lot of like I work out a lot, and I treat that like a part of the job because I want to be able to perform and at like the highest level. So yeah, just a lot of being in the practice space, screaming by myself, and then a lot of practicing with the band as well, and a lot of workouts.
Do you feel like still a need to write any more music with Refused? Because I never thought you guys would do any more albums. Then a few years ago, you dropped an album, and I was like, fuck, like this is great. Like I got to see you play in Birmingham and play these songs live, and I was like, this is so good to see new music because you kind of went away for a while. And
Yeah.
I wondered when you're practicing for a year and you're touring, surely there's going to be days when you're sat on the tour bus or in rehearsal room or sound checking where you're going to be like playing around with some ideas.
Maybe. I mean, and I think what we're going into next year with is an open mind. If
Yeah,
something happens, it happens. If I don't think we feel a need that we need to write more songs.
no,
But if it would happen, we wouldn't try to stop it.
yeah, that's
You know?
fair.
So I think that's what it is. I think next year we're just gonna have an open mind, try to have fun, and what comes out of next year, I mean, who knows? I'm just, I'm super excited about it.
Ah, it's so good. And then after that, I wonder when you finally put the microphone down, Refuse is done. Do you then think I will spread myself out between Invasion and a solo project and writing stuff with maybe the members of Refused in another project? Or do you kind of just take some time out and think, I want to read some books, I want to listen to the records I've not listened to yet, I want to be with my family, I want to just switch off?
I think the first answer probably.
You're never going to stop, are you?
No, I mean, I love playing music and I
Yeah,
love to create and I love how it makes me feel. And it's never been about the money. It's never been about the fame. It's just been about the expression of it all. And I mean, 2026 is a long ways away, but I have ideas what I want to do and I have plans with what I want to do. And as you said, like, yeah, maybe do a new Invasion record, record it, have it out by the end of next year. Like, I mean, next year is going to be full on. And I
yeah.
assume that maybe after that, it won't be as full on. But I just want to keep creating, keep playing. And as long as people have some sort of interest in seeing me come to town with one of my bands, I'll happily do it.
What about fake names? Will you still have time for that, or is that kind of a
Yeah, no, we are working on new music. We were actually supposed to play shows this fall, but Brian Baker is super busy, and then I had a heart attack, so
yeah?
it didn't happen. But yeah, we're writing new songs and we're in touch, and yeah, I hope we sometime in the foreseeable future we'll record a new record, and then maybe after Refuse we can do some touring with that.
I always see myself. I kind of look at where you could go in the future, and I do think maybe I'm completely wrong, but I do see that you might direct music videos, a short film, produce bands, do the creative side of stuff without
Yeah.
getting your hands too dirty in the actual performing. I definitely see that you've got such a creative mind and such a vision that can't just be ever left.
No, I think that I've done a little bit of producing over the years, and it's something that I've been sort of fascinated by, but being so busy with everything that I do, never really had the time to do it.
No.
But yeah, that'd be cool. And there's plenty, as you said, there's plenty of creative stuff that you can do around it. I'm actually now I'm helping to start a music school in my hometown
Oh, now this is
where,
good.
where I'm gonna be like it's called a nester, which is like I'm gonna be like the main focal point, and then all the bands are gonna have like uh music teachers, and they're gonna meet me like once a week and talk to me about like music, and I'll share some of my knowledge with them.
I'm grabbing my dog.
I
I'll
hear
be
you.
1 minute.
No, no, no worries.
This is Florence.
Hello, Florence.
She has to get on every interview.
All right.
Somehow she always gets a little cameo.
All right, that's good.
I like this school idea. This is crazy. I mean, that I thought you were going to take it easy, but that's going to be full on.
Yeah, I mean it's just like 2 hours every week, but it's
Yeah,
still cool, and I'm gonna be kind of the figurehead, so the city can apply for money if they have a famous musician as part of the crew, and it's geared towards kids that are between 12 and 25, and we have a kickoff for the first season in 2 weeks, and we already have 40 kids that wants to play music and play bands. So it's pretty awesome.
I love that. I'd be going to school and I'd be like, my teacher is the guy that wrote New Noise, and he's
Yeah,
teaching me how to scream down a microphone.
that'd be pretty cool. We'll see. I mean, a lot of these kids are so young that they have no connection to me, which is funny because I've been to the local schools and kind of like with some other people trying to pitch this idea of music school, and they were like, "Do you guys play in a band or what's your deal?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, yeah, I do."
I uh, I do believe as well. Maybe I'm just getting ahead of myself, but surely you want to do a tour diary of the final tour, or you want to do some like a really beautiful hardback kind of scrapbook that the people can have, because there's going to be so many great Polaroids. There's going to be so many amazing things you see, and that can't just be for Instagram.
No, I'm thinking that the last year will be well documented, which is funny because we're one of those bands that we're notoriously bad at documenting stuff that we do. Like we went to America to record Freedom, and there's like two photos from that session because no one no one thought to bring a camera, you know. But yeah, this last year we're gonna document as much as we can, both record stuff and film stuff and photos and everything, you know. So yeah.
That's awesome. What I do on this podcast, and it's my final question because your record collection is insane, dude. Like you share it on Instagram, and I'm so envious because you must just get lost. Like you must think, I'm going to go and listen to a record, and you must spend the duration of an album looking for something to listen to, and then when you finally put it on, you found something else that you want to listen to. I don't know how you ever get to find the record you want.
Well, first of all, I have a immaculate, everything's in immaculate order, so I know exactly where everything
Oh,
is.
okay.
I'm very organized with my record collection. And then usually I'm the kind of person, which is interesting. I want to discover new music.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, I like listening to like old stuff or stuff that I'm familiar with, but that's mostly when I'm like out driving, or like if there's some people are coming to visit, I'll put something on in the background that everybody knows. But most of the time when I listen to music at home, my ambition is always to discover like a new artist or a new song every day. And I think this year records are released in 2024. I think about 60 records already that's released this year.
that is fucking ace.
Love new music, and I love to hear new bands and listen to new songs.
So, what song would you like to be played at the end of today's episode? Because every guest that comes on can choose any song by any band that they would love to be played and would sum up me and you today.
Oof. I mean, that's like it's one of those questions where people like, can you tell me your three best records? And I'm like, I get really obsessed over it. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's insane. Like, how do you pick and choose? I'm gonna do something a little bit different. I'm gonna choose the new Jane's Addiction single, True Love.
Okay.
It just came out like the day after they had a fist fight on stage, like when they
Yeah, I felt really sorry for Dave Navarro, man. That video footage
yeah.
was
kind of felt sorry
Nasty.
for everyone in that situation. But they recorded a couple of new songs, and there's a song called, I think it's called True Love. It's like a brand new Jane's Addiction song that's just beautiful. And I'm just like, wait, if this is the direction they're going in, like,
Come
catch a
back,
break.
kiss and make
Yeah,
up.
come back.
Yeah.
Don't fight. That's the one I'm gonna pick. And I assume that it's about music. That's kind
Yeah.
of how it feels. What he's singing about, like when he was young, he discovered his first true love, and I'm like, probably music. Might be drugs if it's Jane's Addiction, who knows? But let's say it's music. So I'm gonna pick that song today.
And you were talking about new music. This doesn't have to make the episode, but are there any new bands you can recommend? Because I'm the same. I'm always searching for these new, incredible bands that not everyone's talking about and could be the next big thing. And I wondered if there's any, and maybe I leave it on for people to discover new music, but I wondered if there's any bands that you thought they deserve your time.
Well, High Vis,
Yeah.
they deserve everyone's time, and I mean they're not brand new, but they're kind of newish. I'm super. They got a new record coming out like in a couple of weeks. I'm super excited. They're probably one of my new favorite new bands. They're so. I'm actually gonna go down to Stockholm to see them live in December. I'm just gonna fly down to see High Vis. Super excited.
Have you heard, I'm going to give you one back. Have you heard of a band called Unpeople?
No,
All
unpe
one word, Unpeople.
All right,
So they're managed by the same guy that manages Biffy Clyro.
all right,
They've only
unpe
got one EP out at the moment, but everyone's talking about them. They're going to be massive and they're fucking awesome. They've got one EP, and I just know you'll listen to it and be like, that's got a bit of everything that you love.
That's awesome. I'll check it out. I'll check it out instantly. I mean, I love that too. I think that as someone that grew up and have a very, very, very deep love of punk and hardcore music, I'm gonna go out not even on a limb. I'm just gonna go out and say that punk and hardcore of right now is more exciting than ever.
Yeah.
I think a lot of kids sort of figure out what's the good old school stuff that we can sort of borrow from, what's the good new school stuff, and what's just cool music in general. And there's this whole world of just punk and hardcore music that I find super exciting because they're trying to reinvigorate it. They're trying to do something new with it. And I'm not a gatekeeper. I'm not one of those guys. I'm just like anything new, anything exciting. I love the idea that someone's like, let's start a hardcore band. I love Youth of Today, and then someone says, I love Billie Eilish. Let's make it happen. For me, that's beautiful. And hardcore as of 2024 is just so spectacular and so much fun and so free and open, and I just love it.
I'm going to give you one more as well because I know you and I know you'll love this. This band used to be in a band called Black Peaks in the UK that were brilliant,
Okay.
and Palm Reader, and they both broke up, and the founding members of each band got together and made like a super group, which is awesome. And they're called Vower, Vower, Vower. They only have one EP out, but trust me, the vocals, the drumming, the production, you will love it. It is it's one of those EPs that you think, how is this their first ever release? Like, this should be their sixth album. Like, it's
All
what
right.
you work towards.
That is amazing. I will check out Unpeople and Vower immediately after we're done because I love new music.
And drop me a message, because if you hate it, then I got it totally wrong.
Yep.
Dude, I can't wait to see you in the UK. I will come and I will buy you a drink and I will shake your hand and we'll party, because it's the last spin of the dice and I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be super exciting. Can't
Thank
wait.
you so much for coming back on, dude. It means the
No
world. You
worries.
know, we've tried to make this happen for a while now, but it
Well,
needed to be the right moment.
yeah, and I honestly, I'll excuse myself with the fact that I did have a heart attack and then
Hey,
I
that
took
gets
like
you out
3 months off.
that gets you out of all weddings, birthday parties, any
Exactly.
engagement you have. I promise a heart attack is the best reason to get out of it.
I tried for after 2 weeks, my wife was like, "This excuse is now done."
I'm not tidying the house again. I'm
Exactly.
sorry, it's the
Yeah,
heart
I'm not
attack.
cooking for you today
No,
because it's not that bad. I'm like, oh, all right, but yeah.
dude, thank you for your time. I know how busy you are.
Thank
I
you.
will keep in contact. Please let me know what you think of those bands, because I'd be really intrigued.
I'm super intrigued.
And enjoy your evening, and I will
Yes,
speak to you soon, and I'll see you on the road next year.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Thanks for having me back on, and I'll see you soon.
So there it is. For a second time, me and Dennis talking all things Refused. Genuinely a guest that I absolutely adore. Dennis knows more about music than anyone I've ever spoken to. I could talk to the guy for hours. He fascinates me, and I'm so grateful that he gave me his time for a second time to come on Mark and Me and talk all about the history of Refused, the future, that final tour next year, which I will make sure I get to as many dates as I can, and just sharing new music. It's great to know that since this was recorded, he told me he loved my recommendations of Unpeople and Vower, and I know the guys from those bands will absolutely love the fact that Refused are listening to their music and rating it so high. But also, if you're listening to this and you haven't heard Refused, or you're only just new to them, go back and listen, because you will absolutely adore all the stuff they've put out. But A Shape of Punk to Come is an album that will change your life. Remember, it hasn't just come out, it's been on the scene for over 20 years. It blew the minds of people when it came out, and I hear so many people referencing it when they're talking about going to the studio. Loads of guitar geeks that really want to get that sound will always listen to stuff like New Noise and get that tone, and it is just an absolute classic. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do while you're listening to this is please share this episode. I have seen more response to me announcing that Refused were coming back on to any other hype or any other kind of tease that I've put out there on social media. So now it's actually out there. I know it's going to be incredible, because so many people out there love and adore Refused. They are rightfully legends of the music scene. So please, if you're listening now, hit the share button on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram or TikTok. Put it as part of your stories. Do whatever you want to do, but just tell someone about this episode, because it really does deserve the attention. I want to see it do really well. And hey, it's the last episode before the big 400, and what a way to do it. Dennis from Refused. Right, let's breathe. Now, I want to also say a shout out to the sponsor of the podcast, Richer Sounds. If you love Refused and you love hardcore bands or any kind of music, you should invest in some new speakers, an incredible CD player or streaming deck or Sonos, or some headphones to listen to these bands. And if you are going to do that, go to richersounds.com or any of the high street stores, because they truly are the best out there. I'm so honoured that they sponsor Mark and Me, and each and every month, because of those guys, I get to do this podcast. So thanks to Richer Sounds, and please go and check out their incredible stuff. And finally, Siren Craft Brew, who are one of my favourite breweries out there, have been so generous that they're giving £10 off your next order if you go on sirencraftbrew.com and enter the code 10MARK. That's 10 the number Mark. And just in time for Christmas, you can go and treat yourself, fill up your fridge with some amazing beers and incredible drinks. And the good thing is, it's an independent brewery with an incredible range of beers to suit all tastes. Now, before I go, it is episode 400 next. It's insane that we're now almost there, and I can't wait to share it. Normally I like to end the episodes and give you a little tease or a clue. I'm not going to, but it's only going to be a few days until you get this episode. The good thing is, it's also going to be on YouTube so you can watch it. But all I will say is, if you stick and check out my socials over the next couple of days, the teasers will start, you'll get some hints, and I honestly, hand on heart, could not have asked for a better guest to celebrate the big milestone of episode 400. Right, I've teased you enough. Go now and listen to Refused. Please share this episode. Take care of yourself. Look after each other. And I'll speak to you all in a few days' time.
safely sealed here in my